Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High and abides in the shade of the Almighty says to the Lord, my refuge, my stronghold, my God in whom I trust. It is he who will free you from the snare of the fowler who seeks to destroy you. He will conceal you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the plague that prowls in the darkness, nor the scourge that lays waste at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 fall at your right. You it will never approach. His faithfulness is buckler and shield. Your eyes have only to look, to see how the wicked are repaid. You who have said, Lord, my refuge, and have made the Most High your dwelling. Upon you no evil shall fall, no plague approach where you dwell. For you has he commanded his angels to keep you in all your ways. They shall bear you upon their hands, lest you strike your foot against a stone. On the lion and the viper you will tread, and trample the young lion and the dragon. Since he clings to me in love, I will free him. Protect him, for he knows my name. When he calls, I shall answer, I am with you. With length of life, I will save him in distress and give him glory. With length of life I will content him. I shall let him see my saving power. The word of the Lord. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 26. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, Sit here while I go over there and pray. He took along Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to feel sorrow and distress. Then he said to them, My soul is sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and keep watch with me. He advanced a little and fell prostrate in prayer, saying, My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. When he returned to his disciples, he found them asleep. He said to Peter, So you could not keep watch with me for 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you may not undergo the test. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Withdrawing a second time, he prayed again, My Father, if it is not possible that this cup pass without my drinking it, your will be done. Then he returned once more and found them asleep, for they could not keep their eyes open. He left them and withdrew again, and prayed a third time, saying the same thing again. Then he returned to his disciples and said to them, Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Behold, the hour is at hand, when the Son of Man is to be handed over to sinners. Get up, let us go. Look, my betrayer is at hand. The Gospel of the Lord. When I say the word sloth, you probably think of the gray and slow animal from South America, not the sin. Yet because you know what a sloth is, you presume that the sin of sloth is being slow, or in layman's terms, lazy. This version of the sin sloth clouds our vision of what the sin of sloth actually is. The way Father Ken says sloth is sloth, and pronouncing it that way will help us understand what the sin sloth or acedia is. The sin of sloth, in the end, will stunt our growth. The Catechism states, in paragraph 2733, another temptation, to which presumption opens the gate, is acedia. The spiritual writers understand this as a form of depression, due to lax ascetical practice, decreasing vigilance, and carelessness of the heart. Let's define our terms, shall we? Acedia, translated in Greek, means without care, concern, or grief. In Psalm 91, which we all say for Sunday during night prayer, we hear a list, and in the list is, Nor the scourge that lays waste at noon. This is attributed to the Noonday Devil, the demon of Acedia. They are the ones that busy us with other things and keep us from what is essential, God and how he is working in our lives. Essentially, they are the robber of the joy of the spiritual life. So how does sloth stunt our growth? The sin of sloth stunts our growth and is most deadly when God needs us the most. In the Gospel that was just read, we see Jesus' disciples constantly falling asleep when he specifically told them to keep watch and to remain vigilant. We must admit that Jesus probably felt afraid since his hour had finally come, and his disciples still did not understand his mission. Jesus, even being anxious, kept vigilant and had diligence in his time of trial. He did not let Acedia stop him from partaking in his passion. Unfortunately, his disciples fell asleep when he needed them most, and the sin of sloth stunted their growth. If his disciples had been able to keep watch and pray, Jesus would probably not have felt that afraid, knowing that his disciples cared. The disciples were probably confused about what had occurred in Jerusalem those days before, from cursing a fig tree when figs were out of season when there were no figs, to saying someone would betray him. It would definitely cause the disciples to worry and cause distress among them. The disciples were tired and could not grasp the bigger picture since they cannot even see the smaller one. They did not care to pray and keep watch when Jesus told them to, since they thought there was no need to. It was a simple action he told them to do often, so why in this instance would it matter? They had a lack of wonder and an increase of apathy and carelessness. They lacked diligence and an increase of indifference to doing what was asked of them. Some would even say that apathy is a tragedy, and dare I say, boredom is a crime, for it is in this boredom that the Noonday Devil steals our joy. Just like Peter and the disciples fell asleep when God needed him most, so do we also fall asleep, unable to see his daily wonder and gifts. Yet if we switch the pronunciation of sloth to sloth, we can see it in another light. The sin of sloth is like also being a moth. Moths are attracted to light. In this case, God is the light of the world, yet smaller lights get in the way, which is what we busy ourselves with. These lights could be good or bad, yet at a certain point, they get in the way and lead to dismay. Let me give you an example. Jimmy is a workaholic, and he has a wife and children. He has a husband, a father, and the spiritual leader of his home. God wants him to ponder more. That way he can offer him more than he already has. Yet this makes him afraid, since he has already been climbing the career ladder all his life. Everyone praises him already. So what more does he need? If he does stop and teach his family how to pray and ponder moral questions, he might miss out on that big promotion. It's all too trivial, he says. Until this day, he is climbing that ladder with his family, while essentially being a dead father. Working and digging his grave helps him to avoid prayer and what God has to offer him. He does not want it. He is content with what he has, and since he has a lack of wonder, it stunts his growth. The reason why sloth stunts our growth, and is a mortal sin, is that it is the despair of weakness. Acedia is an act of the sin of omission, and by giving the Noonday Devil permission, it leads to our own everlasting perdition. You see, gentlemen, we are in a crisis for the lack of wonder, and in this culture of death, the idleness of workaholism. Acedia makes us unable to comprehend our own weakness, and makes our cross heavy. Jesus may have felt sorrow and distress, yet still diligently prayed. Jesus knew his own human weakness, and by diligently praying and pondering, we can also understand our weakness. This is the cross, and we must lift it high. Acedia, being the sin of omission, is saying that we do not have a problem, or that we are too busy to take care of it. We never grow, and the sin of sloth stunts our growth when God needs us the most. For sloth may stunt our growth with indifference, but with the virtue of diligence, we can make a difference in this battle for vigilance.